Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the podcast, Grow, Transform, and Evolve podcast, the podcast where we discuss all things personal and professional development. Nothing negative here, all positive news, positive vibes. And today is no different with episode number 11, Coaching and Developing High Performance Leaders, with a person I've known for quite a long time. Her name's Karen Lindsey, an expert in executive leadership coaching and development. We're going to spend some time picking her brain, getting her insights on developing great leaders, especially in this crazy world we're in. As always, we'll kick in with a quote of the episode. This one from World War II General Douglas MacArthur, one of the greatest leaders this country has ever seen. The quote goes like this: "A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others. He does not set out to be a leader, but becomes one by the equality of his actions and the integrity of his intent." Great quote. And with that said, let's introduce, we're going to do a bio of Karen before I bring her on, but Karen Lindsey, our guest today in episode 11. Karen is a renowned executive coach, leadership development consultant, and author working with organizations and individuals to maximize executive potential, productivity, and business results. She combines business and leadership experience with coaching expertise to help increase the effectiveness of executives and organizations. Results achieved by her clients include the growth of high potential executives, successful onboarding of new executives, retention of key talent, a huge topic, increased productivity and effectiveness, executive promotions, and stronger teamwork. Some of the specific skills Karen coaches include leadership, executive presence, communication, conflict management, strategic thinking, time management, and organization. And her client list is quite robust. Some companies you may have heard of: Walt Disney Company, ESPN, Comcast, HBO, Fox, Warner Brothers, Cushman and Wakefield, and Westfield as well. And you may have even seen her on Fox Television for business and career tips. She's been featured in Variety.com and WRC Radio. And she's also recently published a book on leadership called Leadership Breakthrough: Leadership Practices that Help Executives and Their Organizations Achieve Breakthrough Growth. And with that said, let's introduce Karen. Karen, who I've known for, I want to say, 18 or so years. I met her at an NYU coaching class. I was a guest for one class talking about the importance of assessments in coaching and leadership. And she was so impressed with my wonderful presentation, she actually became certified in one of the assessments as well, too. We'll talk a little bit about that. But good to see you, Karen.
Nice to see you, Steve.
It's been a long time, but I'm happy to see her business is flourishing, especially with the craziness that's going on. And I'm sure leadership has been a massive topic for you through this past uncertain times. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Leadership right now is more important than ever, and also more challenged than ever for many different reasons. So absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about your background a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, you have a strong background in corporate America before you left. How long have you owned your business, first and foremost? Lindsey Resources.
15 years.
15 years. Okay. And then prior to that, you spent 22 in corporate America?
I did.
Okay.
You can do the math right, something like that.
Yeah, I know. Every year it gets more frightening for me too. So tell us a little bit about your corporate background, your career, and how this evolved in a coaching business and an emphasis on leadership.
I get that question a lot, and it's interesting because I started my career in finance. I was an accountant and a financial analyst for the Walt Disney Company.
Oh, wow.
And I built my career in finance for many years and became an executive in finance, but it was never really my passion. What I loved about the work I did was the work I did with other people and helping others get comfortable with the idea of finance.
Yeah.
For those that were terrified of it or completely uncomfortable with it. So helping people and helping leaders, especially at the time, with financial tools and teaching them how it can be a tool and how not to be afraid of it. That's how I started.
Yeah.
But it was helping people and helping leaders. And that's where I really got a taste of it. But back then, coaching really hadn't begun, or it was still very new. But then when I got my master's degree at night, the emphasis that I chose was management and organizational behavior, because that's where my interest lied, but I didn't know really what I was going to do with it. And then after, kind of having enough with finance and realizing there's got to be more for me and something I can really get excited about, the idea of coaching came along. There was an HR executive at Warner Brothers that said, you would make a great executive coach. And then I had another executive coach within the same month say the same thing. I was like, okay, the stars are aligning. They're like sending me messages and sending me down a direction. So I signed up at NYU and I got my coaching certification, and I've not looked back.
Okay, excellent. How long did it take you to become certified as an executive coach?
You know what? I pushed hard and went fast. I did it in 8 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah, that was really streamlining. And I got my certification in executive coaching and life coaching. Because the two, they really do cross over quite a bit.
They bleed in each other, sure.
So I did it very quickly.
Excellent. So why the emphasis on leadership? You don't do any sales or any other aspects. It's primarily leadership. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. It's all about leadership, and all the many facets of it, because leadership, while it's one short term, it encompasses so much when it, like communication and motivation and all of these other skills that are required to be a good leader. But that has been my emphasis, is helping executives, new leaders, be the best that they can be. And then by doing so, it helps their organizations grow.
That's right.
Which is really fun to see.
That's right. Have you seen in times of change, I hear a lot with my clients about the generational differences. You just look at how fast, I always say we're in a fast-paced, high-tech, ever-evolving world. Change is hitting us faster than ever. Adversity striking deeper. The speed at which we make decisions is getting shorter and shorter. Has leadership changed over the years, or is it basically the same? It's just the same fundamentals, just different times?
I would say that the fundamentals, I think, are very much the same, but how it's carried out now is very different. And which skills you need to emphasize might shift given the time. What I've seen lately that I think the leadership skill that's hurting right now.
That is hurting. Gotcha.
That people are not paying close enough attention to, because their attention is being pushed in other leadership areas, is listening skills.
Yeah.
It's so hard right now for people to take the time to really listen to each other. And if we took the time, took a breath, and really listened to understand versus listen to respond, then I think it would save us so much time in the long run with misunderstandings, people going the wrong direction, expectations not being met. We need to take a breath and we need to listen a lot more. And believe it or not, it will save time.
Absolutely. Well, we're in this crazy world and things are hitting faster and faster. People are moving, getting pulled in so many different directions. Losing those fundamental skills is a natural occurrence. You work with a lot of C-suite executives. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there an area where being that they're C-suite, that they've climbed the mountain, they think they may know it all and all? Is that driving some of this lack of listening as well too? Nothing's. It just seems when people get that level, there's a certain, hey, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to, work on certain things. Is that one reason why listening could be an issue? They've eclipsed that high level and they think they know it all in a lot of ways. I don't want to get you in trouble with any of your clients.
I think it's a combination of things. Time, number one. People are trying to talk in shorthand right now. Yeah. So they're not spending the time to really explain things the way they should be. I think the other piece is a little bit generational. In my generation, it was very hierarchical, and in my dad's generation, It was, there were a lot of rules that you had to follow. There was a lot of business etiquette that you had to follow. And because of that, you never questioned somebody above you.
That's right. Yeah.
And you really, there was much more of a tiptoeing environment between the different levels. We don't have that now. But a lot of the people who are in the executive suites grew up in that area.
That's right.
And the younger generation, they expect to be heard. They expect to be respected, even if they haven't risen the ranks yet. And they want to know more. They have the desire for purpose. So it's not just do this because I told you so.
That's right.
It's do this because here is what the value it's going to add to yourself, to the people around you, to our clients, to the world at large. So it's balancing, I think, those two pieces that are really, really important right now.
Are the executive leaders, are they seeing this? Are they realizing that, hey, this is a different I hear a lot of people complaining about the other generations, but are they really understanding these younger folks and what they need to do and why they need to do it? Or is that a lot of your coaching work as well, too?
They hear it. They acknowledge it. Many times they don't know what to do with it. We didn't grow up having that need for purpose in our careers. And so even for me, I had to really think about what I expected at the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
So for people who haven't had to consider that, it's looking at the business in a whole different way. Yeah. And it's looking at what we do on a day-to-day basis in a whole different way. And so I think that they understand that because they hear it. If they don't acknowledge it, their turnover is just going to go up.
Yeah.
They have no choice. If they want younger talent, they have to adjust.
Yeah.
And so figuring that out and working with them to help them communicate that and learn how to work with various generations. That's the other thing. For the first time, we now have 4 generations in the workplace.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are significant differences, by the way, with all generations. So leaders now have to know how to lead all these different generations.
That's right.
What their needs are, how to talk to them, how to motivate them. So it's added a whole new challenge for leaders.
So a lot of your work, you use a behavioral assessment called DISC. Do you use other behavioral assessments as well, too?
So I also use the ESCI, Emotional and Social Competency Inventory. That is now owned by Korn Ferry. So that is for emotional intelligence.
Okay.
It's a multi-rater or a 360, but it really focuses on emotional intelligence.
Excellent. I was going to ask you a little bit about EQ. So that's a key element you're working with your coaches on in driving their emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's key for all leaders. Some are better than others. Some still don't know what EQ is.
Right.
So yeah, I just today have started with one, and the focus is going to be emotional intelligence.
Excellent. So if you could do a brief top line for the listeners on, we had a guest a few weeks ago talk about EQ, but if you could revisit just top line EQ is with the assessment that you use, and how do you use that to point out the leaders' EQ, so to speak, and how do you help them develop their emotional intelligence as well?
It's really drawing the correlation between emotional intelligence and their individual behaviors. So the behaviors that support emotional intelligence, the behaviors that do not support emotional intelligence. So it's drawing that correlation to the leaders that I work with. When you behave this way, that does not come across as having emotional intelligence. Okay. Here's why. So let's talk about other approaches. It's also starting by bringing the awareness to people's behavior and how it lands on other people. Many people don't think to look at the other person. That's one of the things I love about DISC, is DISC brings behavior into the awareness.
That's right.
So when you learn to use DISC, which doesn't take long to learn, another thing I love about it, but it really, the beauty of it is it draws your attention just to focus on the other person that you're talking to. Get out of your own head and pay attention. What is
right.
their body language saying to you?
Right.
What could be going on behind the scenes that you should be aware of?
Yeah.
That's what I love about DISC.
Because my behavior style or my leadership style may not be accepting of other people, correct? So if I'm more dictatorial, I'm more to the point, I'm more prone to being short and to the point, other people may not receive that in a positive light. Is that fair to say? Based on their DISC styles, their personality style.
Right. I had such an interesting experience happen just 2 days ago when I was conducting a DISC training.
Yeah.
And I thought this was just beautiful. It was so interesting. So for people who haven't done DISC yet or don't know what it is, so the D style, the dominant style, they are people who are very extroverted and they're very task focused. So they can be very assertive. They can be aggressive, competitive, bottom line focused. They want things to move. They're very action oriented. And then the S's are the opposite, polar opposite of your D's. And they're very steady. They're introverted and they're people focused. So I'm conducting this training and someone who was an S said to me, boy, D's sound so negative. And I said, but isn't that interesting? Because to D's, they think this all sounds positive.
That's right.
And so it's understanding that people have very, very different ways of communicating.
That's right.
And their behaviors can be very different. It doesn't make it better or worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have to understand it and learn how to work together.
Absolutely.
So when she said that, she said, yeah, that just doesn't sound very good at all. And the D's are like, yeah, it does. I think that's exactly what I want to be.
That's right. That's right.
I just thought that was so interesting.
Yeah. Well, you know why I'm so screwy? I'm a blended high S and D. So there you have it.
Wow.
Yeah, in my DISC
Makes you
style.
good at what you do.
Well, it actually is a nice blend. It's a rare blend. It's a nice blend. But yeah, I'm primarily high S with some secondary high D. So I am that blend. So folks, when people take the DISC survey, they are not necessarily, it's not always black or white, D or I or S or C's. We're typically blends of different styles. One will most often, 99% of the time, manifest higher than the other. So what Karen does is help people understand their primary DISC styles, and then in turn helps that leader know the style of the people he or she is leading and help the team understand each other. And that in turn, correct me if I'm wrong, can help raise emotional intelligence, because the more we understand ourselves, the more we understand our teams, the more emotionally astute we're going to be. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awareness is key. And DISC helps provide that awareness, and it provides a framework to help you understand it better, because you're right. It's fluid. We can all behave in all 4 different ways. But it's where are our preferences? What is our go-to? So absolutely. I think it helps with emotional intelligence, because you're paying attention to other people and their behavior, and you're paying attention to your own behavior.
That's right.
And what it's saying to other people.
Right. So if you see a leader, you know his or her style, and you see them behaving in a manner that is not productive, do you tie that back to their DISC style and relate that, your dominant style is being overplayed, or your compliance style is being overplayed in this moment, and that's what's happening, especially helping them understand who they're leading or dealing with at the time?
If it's someone who has been through DISC, absolutely. I'll use that language and help them understand. First, I'll ask them, so what style do you think the other person is?
Yeah.
And then the light bulb starts to go off. Oh, yeah, that person's probably this style. And so they're probably not liking how I'm communicating with them right now. So they can pick it up pretty quickly.
That's right. And it's not just communication. It's understanding how people are motivated, how they deal with change, risk, conflict, adversity. Right. Understanding all those components, again, in yourself as a leader can raise your emotional intelligence. And if you know those attributes of those people with whom you're engaging with, you're going to raise your EQ even more as well, too. Do you find any particular DISC style more effective as a leader?
Wow, it's interesting. just recently, I have seen a lot more variety
Yeah.
in the workplace. And some of it has been the different industries that I've been involved in as of late, much more creative, very focused creatively. And that has brought a lot more introverts into my world in that way. Typically, I think that you might find slightly more Ds, especially in, I think, the larger corporate arenas, because that in the past is what has been expected. But I think over time, people are recognizing the benefit and the value that some of the other styles bring.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, it's how well a leader can adapt to all four. No matter what theirs is, they have to be able to adapt. If you think about one of the most important leadership rules, you have to motivate the individual. And everybody is motivated differently.
That's right.
Which means you have to be able to adapt to the individual people that you are motivating and that you are managing. That is one of the keys to being a successful leader.
Yeah, I think Vince Lombardi, the great football coach, stated that the key to his success was he had to know 40 different ways to communicate, motivate with 40 different men. He knew the hot buttons to push on his players and stuff. And I think, to your point, even with these generational dynamics, that's getting even more important, because I think some of the younger folks crave coaching. They crave that interpersonal dynamic that past employees may not. To your point, it was a hierarchy way. It's my way or the highway. I think the younger generations are looking for more guidance, a collaborative environment. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. And they want to participate. So it's not just hand them something to do. It's let them be a part of the process. And quite frankly, that's a win-win for everyone. If the more you can involve them and engage them in the process, that is a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely. It's funny, when I was in corporate America, we do these team building exercises. It's build a boat or build this, build something together as a team. Now that I know the disc styles, what would happen is the D's and I start jumping in and building the boat. The S's and C's are sitting back going, well, what are these guys doing? There's no right or wrong style, but if you took all these styles together and leveraged the strengths of all the styles instead of the D's and I's taking control, jumping in, the S's and C's sitting back and, getting frustrated. If you understood the dynamics of the team, the disc dynamics of the team, and then built the boat, you're going to build a hell of a better boat than, certain styles taking control. Do you do any work with helping companies with vision, mission, values, and things of that nature?
I do. And that's not easy for everyone and for all companies. It's a very squishy topic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's also such an important one. Yeah. There was one organization that I was coaching the president of an organization. And as I was doing the 360, I was asking various people, as I was doing my interview style 360, about this president. What's his vision? And what was so interesting is this was a software company. Half the people said, we want to develop a off-the-shelf solution that many people can use. The other half were like, we are developing very specific one-off support for each individual client. Whoa, you have people making daily decisions with two completely different ideas about where the company's going.
Yeah.
So pointing that out to this president and to a lot of the executives I work with, that vision provides that guiding light.
That's right.
It helps people understand, okay, this is where we're going.
Exactly.
So on a day-to-day basis, their decisions can support that.
Bingo. Excellent.
So it's very important.
Yeah. And then you add that, with all different generations, if you don't have that vision or that stake in the ground, no one knows what they're working towards. Each department doesn't understand how they participate in those overarching vision, mission, and values as well, too. So if you're not stable in the vision, mission, values, and you have these different team disc dynamics, that can create a lot of issues. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And then you add on the changes. Sorry.
That's okay. We have another guest.
So the changes that we're all dealing with on a day-to-day basis, we lose sight of where are we going again?
Yeah.
Because there's all these changes along the way, and we get hyper-focused into the details, but sometimes we have to take that step back and say, wait, that's still our guiding light, right? That is still where we want to go. Okay. It helps be that anchor on a day-to-day basis. That helps people, reset and be like, okay, I know the direction that we're going. I just got to keep going that direction.
Exactly. So what are the main attributes you attribute to a successful leader? 2 or 3 attributes that are common that you attribute to. Well, obviously, there's different DISC styles. The style of leadership change, but are there specific attributes? Problem solving, overcoming adversity, providing vision. What things do you see are most important for an effective leader?
So one of the ones that I find so important is being a leader leading versus directing. What that means is leaders have to remember they don't have to have all the answers. It's their job to get out the best answers.
Okay.
And too often leaders feel like they have to know it all and they have to be the ultimate decision maker.
Yeah.
And in many cases they are, but it's the decisions that are brought to them and how they elicit that out of their teams. That is so key.
Yeah.
And how they do that is through asking really good questions. So you watch some of the best leaders out there, and they are fabulous at asking questions, not about having all the answers.
Yeah.
But they know how to pull the answers out, the best answers out. That I think is a huge one. The second one is expectations have to be crystal clear, always. There should be no ambiguity into what is expected. Level of detail in terms of, just let people know what the outcome needs to be, not necessarily how to do it. That's micromanaging. But the more you can provide the expectations and be clear about it, that is key. Who's the audience? What is it going to be used for? Does it need to be just a quick idea or number on a napkin? Does it need to be a full-blown PowerPoint presentation? Be very clear about what's needed, why, where it's going, what the intended output is, and when specifically it needs to be done.
Okay. Excellent.
Most problems that occur, big problems that occur, if you trace it back, expectations are amiss.
Wow.
Not clear. Someone doesn't understand. There's a misinterpretation. One group is going this way because they expected one thing.
Yeah.
Another group's going a whole other direction because they read it a different way. Expectations have to be crystal clear.
And that's where the vision, mission, values come in too, right? We all know those expectations are going to be built if we have a firm stake in the ground as to what we do, where we're heading, and why we're doing that. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. They're all steps in that direction.
Do you find certain DISC styles are better at setting those expectations? Because you have some of the DISC styles are more detail oriented, more fact based, where the others are a little bit more maybe fly by night. Not saying the fly by night people are wrong. They're just more the motivational, the rah-rah leaders who tend to maybe not be tied into the detail. Is there any connection there, or it's based on the individual?
I will tell you, sometimes it's based on the company.
Okay.
So having worked with high-tech companies where you need a lot of focus, you need drive, you need people who are bottom line focused, that is where the D is going to be really helpful. But in a creative environment where you're innovating, then you need to be able to look bigger picture. And sometimes people like the eyes, are much better at that bigger picture.
Yeah.
D's tend to have the box.
Yeah.
And I's are really good at looking beyond that.
Yeah.
They're good at looking at the possibilities.
Yeah.
So to your point earlier, you put D's and I's together to create that, and I think you have a winning combination.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, it looks like we have another guest.
My dog barked. I apologize for that.
No. This is fun. I like it.
It's my assistant, see?
I like it. Hey there, assistant. A team approach. In your bio, you talk about skills that are often forgotten, weak, or underdeveloped. Are these things that have gone through time, or is this tied to each individual?
I see trends
Okay.
in areas where people are hyper focused in one skill and less so in another. For a while, innovation was the hot topic. Everyone's got to innovate. You got to innovate. And what was happening, and I'm seeing that now, is a lot of companies are so focused on innovating that they are not supporting their base business enough.
No, okay.
And they're having client issues now. So yeah, you have to balance them all. All these leadership skills are required all the time. You have to make time for all of it. And it's doable. It is absolutely doable. It just has to be a conscious effort.
Yeah.
So I spoke earlier about listening skills. You have to make time for that. The growth and development of your people, very key. It's key for retention. It's going to help your whole organization grow. Doesn't get enough time and attention in many instances. Communication. How effectively are we communicating? If you think about it right now, one area that really is troublesome to me, and it all happened because of the pandemic, and I'm hoping that we can go back to using our communication skills appropriately. Mm-hmm. People are using Slack and all these instant messengers out there, and they are slacking in instant messaging inappropriate topics.
Yeah.
That should be on the phone. That should be on Zoom. Yeah. It hurts people's their relationships to other people.
Yeah.
Because things are misunderstood. They're misinterpreted.
Yeah.
That is a huge problem right now. We have to get back to thinking about what's important in the way that we communicate and take the time to make sure we're communicating well. There's another area I think that often gets forgotten is building relationships. A lot of executives and leaders feel like, building and maintaining and nurturing relationships, it's another thing that falls to the bottom of the task list, falls to the bottom of priorities. Relationships are how things get done. It's how we learn about changes in the world that could be affecting us. It's learning about other resources that are out there, understanding the risks in our world, in our marketplace, for our company. And if you're not tapped into and you're not nurturing the relationships internally and externally, there could be a lot of blind spots out there that you're not aware of. And so that's another one that often gets forgotten.
Yeah. Do the executives you work with, do they understand the cost associated with mishires, unhappy employees, and cultural issues? There's a great book called by a gentleman named Bradford Smart called Top Grading, who stated that a mishire on the high side can cost a company up to 13 times base salary. Now, you multiply that times a 10% turn ratio or a 20% turn ratio, that's just a mishire, but I think the math would still be the same for a bad culture and turnover. Do a lot of the folks you're working at really understand the cost of bottom line of not doing some of the things you're saying?
Absolutely. What's difficult, and understandably so, because we are moving so fast these days, they need people now.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, oftentimes it becomes a reaction. We have to get someone in that spot.
Get the bodies.
And then they pay for it later.
Yeah.
So I often talk about how important it is to gear up for hiring up front. What that means is your job description needs to be very clear, not only at what they're going to be doing on a day-to-day, but what type of behaviors are expected, how they're going to be working with others, and then make sure all the people that they're going to be working with buy into that job description.
That's right.
And then when the interview process happens, you have to make sure that other people are interviewing them also, but you need to have a strategy about the interview.
Yeah.
Are we asking the right questions? And are we both all saying the same thing about the job?
Yeah.
So there needs to be a little bit more coordinated effort up front to help with the hiring process. But as the saying goes, you have to hire slow and fire fast.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
true.
I agree with that. So you're saying you're a firm believer in competency or behavioral-based interviewing, setting the standards for competencies or behaviors given for success in a given job. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because I work a lot with my clients on this, and I've actually gone out to colleges to help seniors in college learn to interview. And I flip the switch on them. I tell them, understand the competencies expected by a company for a given job. And you need to be able to speak, not only align your resume to those competencies, but be able to speak provide factual insights that you do exhibit those behaviors they're looking for. I picked on a basketball player at my alma mater. I said, who's a leader in the room? And the gentleman raised his hand. He said, I'm captain of the basketball team. So I said, oh, you were the popular one. He looked at me. Yeah, he looked at me like at three heads, and then he's like, looks at me. I'm like, oh, no, you were next in line. That's why you got it. He's looking at me like I'm crazy, thinking I'm picking on. But what I was trying to do is to say that being captain of the basketball team doesn't make you a leader. Why were you chosen a leader? And that's where we really drove a dialogue when he explained why they selected him as a leader. Oftentimes folks will say, I'm captain of the basketball team. That interviewee thinks that's enough. And the interviewer thinks because they're a captain that they were a leader. They may not have been. They may have been the popular one, so it's really, to your point, identifying those attributes or those behaviors or those competencies, then interviewing for those.
And it can be very difficult because there are people who interview very well. It comes down to your questions.
Yeah.
You have to ask them, give me an example of when you handled a situation like X, Y, and Z, and how you handled it. That's going to be the best way for you to understand behaviors. That's
right. Provide those factual, actual situations, those factual situations to prove that you do exhibit that respective behavior. So tell us a little bit about your book. What are some key takeaways about your book, So tell us a little bit about your book. Key takeaways from your book, Leadership Breakthrough, leadership practices that help executives and their organizations achieve breakthrough growth. No problem. Now we have a technical difficulty with her assistant, Mr. Doggy. I don't know what your doggy's name is, but Bentley. Some issues with Bentley. So tell us a little bit about your book, and we'll do a little close here real quick too.
Okay. So, the book came about kind of organically. While I was commuting back and forth to New York City to see my clients, it's a 3-hour commute each way, 2 of which are on the train. So I had 4 hours every time I went to New York to sit on a train and work on this. But how it came up was seeing all of the different areas, the different skills in leadership that often get forgotten or there's not enough time spent on it. And so what this book is it looks at leadership holistically, all the different skills that are required of a leader and what's important about each one and how to address each one.
Okay.
So that we can always have our eyes set on all the different areas of leadership that we need to make sure that we're covering.
Okay.
And that's what this book does. It's a reminder. You have to be doing some of all of this and make time to do it. And I explain even how to make time to do it.
Excellent. Now, where can we get for a couple of things? How can we find you? Where can people reach out to you if they need help with their leadership skills, their executives or frontline personnel? Where can people find you? Number one, where can they read about your book as well too?
So they can find me. The website is probably the best way to learn more about me and to find me, which is Lindsey, Resources.com. Or they can reach me directly, Karen at LindseyResources.com. And the book is available through Amazon and also through Barnes & Noble.
Okay, excellent. Very good. Just a couple rapid fire questions. Do you have a favorite quote that you can share?
I do. It's a little bit of a long one, but now this quote, just a little backstory. My dad was a CEO of a $1 billion company. So my dad, and he was self-made.
Yeah.
So he was a big inspiration for me.
Oh.
Grew up, not very well off in Cleveland, Ohio, and he was a self-made man. He had a quote, and when my brother and I both graduated from college, he had his favorite quote framed for each of us.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that quote is, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts." Old term.
Yeah.
Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent.
Love
And I believe it. I mean,
Yeah.
he knew he was never the smartest guy in the room, but he worked hard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was persistent, and that's what helped him, get to the level of success that he did.
Love it. Love it. How about a favorite book aside from yours, obviously?
So you know what? I knew you were going to ask that, and I thought I can't pick one favorite because there's so many books on so many different topics, and I have favorites for different topics.
Yeah.
But I'm going to share with you my two current favorites that I'm
Excellent.
recommending a lot. One of them is called The Remix, and it's by Lindsey Pollock. It is all about how to lead in these multi-generational organizations. A little bit of focus on millennials, but it talks about all the different generations. And it's an easy read, and I think it's really important for the executives who are really struggling to understand how to lead different generations.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Second one is Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And what I like about that book is it explains the importance of being candid and honest, but at the same time caring about the people that you work with.
Yeah.
And if you combine those two things, it can be very powerful. If we don't share feedback, if we are too afraid to provide things like feedback, having difficult conversations, as we all know, it just gets worse over time.
That's right.
For everyone, the person receiving it or not receiving it, and the person giving it, and the company at large.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's combining how to be able to be very candid, but also care at the same time.
Love it.
So I think it's really good for that.
Love it. Excellent. What do you do to decompress? What do you do in your downtime?
Well, I am actually a spin instructor.
Oh, awesome.
So I really, I am a big workout cardio person that really helps me.
Likewise.
And then I also read a lot.
Excellent. Excellent. Love it. What's a hobby, well, you do that, you do the, what's an important skill that you recommend everyone develop?
Important skill that everyone should develop: listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Fundamentals.
all have to focus on listening.
Yeah.
And I think more than anything right now, we really need to be listening to each other and listen to understand, not to come up with your response.
That's right. And that's probably my big takeaway for today. I like telling the audience about my biggest takeaway. And it's, even over all these times, all the changing environments, the generational dynamics, the fast-paced high-tech world we're in, the fundamental skill of listening is still it's a top skill needed, not just for leaders, but everyone as well too. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for your time. The insights have been great. Sorry, we had little technical glitches there, but
and the dog interruptions. I apologize for that.
That was fun. It was the technical issues that bothered me, but no, it's great seeing you. Great insights. Happy to have you as a guest. And folks, you know how to reach her now. I highly recommend her book, and I highly recommend her if you're looking to develop your team or you as a leader as well. You do both workshops and one-on-one coaching, correct, Karen?
I do.
Excellent. Next, so one-on-one coaching, workshops, whatever it is, you know how to reach her. But thank you all again for episode 11 of Grow, Transform, and Evolve, the podcast where we discuss all things personal and professional development. Have a great day, all.